It feels like it was just yesterday that I rediscovered the LJN wrestling superstars thanks to a random trip to the Toy Vault. I was just happy to have found Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake, and The Ring. I had no idea of the collecting adventure that I was about to begin. Now, several months later, and several Sergeant Slaughters later, I'm back with my third collection update video, and this time we're going to cover the tips I've learned along the way that I wish I had known or considered before I started this journey. So if you're new to collecting, or even if you've already started collecting, these tips will help you to avoid some of the pitfalls of collecting, or even get you back on track so you stop making mistakes on your collecting adventures. Some of these might feel like I'm stating the obvious, but you'd be surprised at how quickly one can lose sight of these when that shiny new LJN figure is just a mouse click away. Let's get started. If you're anything like me, once you commit to a goal, you want to crush it and accomplish it as soon as possible. I never knew there were so many wrestling superstars figures and accessories, and once I found out about them, I wanted them all, and I wanted them all that very second. This is a mistake in the collecting game. Collecting should be fun, shouldn't feel forced, and shouldn't be rushed. You'll find yourself overpaying, overtrusting, and in debt if you let your collection goals consume you. This is why it's critical to set a budget. How much can you realistically afford to spend? Come up with your weekly, monthly, or quarterly limit. Set aside those funds and purchase as you wish, but choose wisely. There are some expensive rare figures out there, so you can piss through your budget quickly if you're not careful. Just remember, the quick satisfaction of getting that elusive figure you've been looking for can quickly be overshadowed by the looming debt that will be hanging over your head. Choose wisely. eBay is not the only source for buying your action figures, so don't feel like it's a one-stop shop for them. There are several other sites such as Etsy, Mercari, Amazon, and several other online toy stores that specialize in current and retro figures. And there's also wrestling figure forums, and even my LJN Wrestling Superstars Universe group on Facebook. I'd encourage you to check that out. You've also got swap meets, yard sales, estate sales, and your local flea market. While there's no guarantee you'll find anything there, you'd be surprised at how cheap figures can be compared to buying them online. Expanding your horizons and searches for these figures can help you uncover deals you never expected to find, and will help you stretch the almighty dollar to the max and stay within your budget. Let me know if there are any sources you guys have come across for figures in the comments below. Did you find what looks to be a minty mint figure that's a must-have for your collection? You've got to grab it, right? Not so fast. Let's consider a few things here to protect yourself. If buying from eBay or other auction sites, check the seller's feedback and check it carefully. If you see a lot of negative ratings recently, or their seller rating is extremely low, either contact them and ask them about the recent feedback, or move on. Something's going on, and even though most auction sites offer buyer protection, it's not worth the headache to go through the process of trying to recover your money in the event that the transaction goes wrong. Now, for the most part, I've run into pretty reliable and honest sellers, but occasionally you'll run into dickheads, so reviewing recent feedback and seller ratings is a good start. In the absence of seller ratings, or even looking for references from other folks that have purchased from a particular seller, you've got to rely on the pictures. See a figure that's in low lighting, seller's camera flash is turned off with only one pic that's fairly far away? There's a good chance the seller is hiding something about the figure. Ask for more pics, and if they won't accommodate you, walk away. In today's day and age, there's no excuse for not having crystal clear HD photos in bright lighting with all angles covered. It's either laziness, or they've got something on the figure they don't want you to see. Buyer beware. Speaking of pics, let's talk about touch-ups. This is why I specifically look for crystal clear pictures on any item I'm buying. I want to know if what I'm buying is all original or if it's been touched up. If it's been touched up, I walk away. I'd rather a real Hulk Hogan figure with paint loss all over the place than a figure that's been touched up. That's my preference. You might think otherwise, but if you hate touched up figures as much as I do, then you'll benefit from continuing to watch this section. Look for paint discoloration and brush strokes in the picture you're looking at. This is a good indication that the figure might have been touched up. And always ask the seller before making a purchase or making a bid. I ran into a situation where I asked the seller if the figure had been touched up. They said it hadn't been. When I received the figure, it was clear that it had been touched up. Even though the seller didn't accept returns, I contacted eBay, they checked the chat history, I showed them where the figure was touched up, and I got my money back and gave the seller back their touched up figures. So let's add another layer to the story before we move on. Factory touch-ups. See the nuts on Andre the Giant? See the paint strokes? Those are actually factory touch-ups. If I hadn't purchased multiples of these or seen an actual MOC, I'd never have known this. Unfortunately, this only comes with experience and knowing these figures really well. So use your best judgment when determining whether or not you feel a figure had been touched up and whether you want to purchase it. Let's finish this section off with prototypes. I've got a sour taste in my mouth when it comes to these things because there is no real way, in my opinion, to truly authenticate these. Someone says they got a prototype from a former LJN or Hasbro or skippity-doo hippity-fuck employee and I'm supposed to be okay with that? Even with the fancy documentation, which by the way I question that as well, who's to say if that's bullshit or not? I'd prefer to stay away from these and have the actual figures that were released. More power to you if prototypes are your thing, but as soon as I saw someone buy a block of wood that was allegedly a Hasbro prototype, I lost my shit and swore to never get caught up in that vortex. I tell you what, I'll find some hobo on the street, offer them $20 to record a video testimonial saying they're a former LJN employee. I'll have them hold my Rick Rude MOC and a dildo, and I'll have them swear to God the dildo is the Rick Rude LJN prototype. I'll even produce all the fancy documentation verifying its authenticity. Boom, an easy $25K sale on eBay. This is one of the biggest takeaways for me, and it should be for you too. We, as the buyers, control the market, not the sellers. Every purchase you make from an online auction or website is taken into account by other sellers when they price their items. This directly ties into staying within your budget. If you pay top dollar for a figure as soon as it hits the market, you're not only doing yourself a disservice, but you're spiking the future price for other buyers who might be interested in the same item if or when it goes up for sale again. By showing restraint, you can control the future price of these figures. Let's say a rare figure has been selling for $200 over the last few months. A new seller comes into town and lists it for $500. If someone pays that price, other sellers will see this, and the next time it goes up for sale, there's a very high likelihood that the new asking price will be $500 or above. A prime example of this are the mail-away Sergeant Slaughters. Look at the price spike from last summer to now. Just amazing. The message here is simple. If you don't buy it, they can't sell it. And then it becomes a situation of reduce the price or it doesn't sell. Spend wisely. This probably should have gone hand in hand with budget, but number 5 felt like a good place for it. You're gonna need to factor this into your decision making when purchasing figures or accessories. Got kids, pets, siblings, a wife? Guess what? They're gonna have to risk life and limb navigating around all of your toys, so have a plan of attack on where you're gonna store them and know your storage limits. Having these cluttered everywhere is not only a risk and annoyance to your family members, but also a risk to the safety of the figures themselves. They'll get stepped on, kicked around, and in some cases thrown out the goddamn window if somebody trips or stubs their toe on them. There are various stands, wall hangers, cabinets, and other means of storage that can help you reduce clutter. Use your head when considering how much space you really need to store these. And that's going to do it, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there with me till the end, and you can expect more action figure related videos in the future, including this one that will be coming soon. See you next time.